Here we go. We are back. Episode number 7 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I am here with my co-host, Ty White.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have a very special guest here today, Gina Farase. She'll be here. And my oldest daughter, Nikki, is in the stands as well. So we are here each week to dive into the book of How to Become a Sales Warrior and take out chapters, tell some stories, see what the action is to make you a better salesperson. From my 20 years to Ty's 5 or 6 years that he's been strictly sales, we have a lot of tips that we could share with people out there. Right, Ty?
Absolutely. So I want to get into today. Now, is this going to be season 2 for us? Episode 7?
No, it's just a break. We took a break.
So I just want to let everyone know that I'm so happy to be a part of this process because we've released episode 1. And we've just been getting such great feedback, and everyone loves how calm and conversational it is. And I just want to send a special thank you out to everyone who's commented, subscribed already. We've even had people make donations. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody because it makes us excited about going forward about what we're doing and letting us know that people do want to hear all of these trade secrets and stories and different experiences on that road to success. So I thank you to everyone.
Couldn't said it better myself. So
yeah.
we'll just leave that at that. And thank you, George Kittress, for your generous donation. Helped pay for the studio today.
Absolutely.
Which is always good. So we were talking about what chapter I'm going to pull something out of. And when I mentioned that we were going to do Olin Mills, Ty started getting all over me. He's like, you did Olin Mills already. And it's like, he's like, if you tell the same story again, I'm going to jump at you. But not telling the same story again. When you take over a territory, you don't know what happened before you were there. Your company has no idea, especially when it's a remote position. You have no idea. And when someone's trying to sell you to take a job, you want to believe everything they say.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you land inside the territory and you're like, what the fuck happened here? And I was trying to go to churches to sell them this great yearbook, only to find out, there was somebody there last year who set up to do it and never got their yearbook. Like that was like a common thread.
So you were already dealing with angry.
Already dealing. Why give you another chance? Yeah, who are you? Yeah. You're nobody. And going to 15 or 20 churches, I started to realize none of these people knew anything about customer service. Something I thought I could pride myself on when I took the job. And the idea was go out and get the intel. That's one of the action statements from the chapter. Go get the intel on your territory. Find out the history. The reason I bring all this up is I had to find a way to be successful in an area that was not taken care of, not well maintained, and I had to be able to change people's minds. And what I kept on finding over and over again, they didn't get their book. They didn't get their book. They didn't get their book. So I sat down with my team, said, so tell me the process. How do they get their book? And this is way before graphics and technology were a whole lot easier. And they went through it. They handed them some envelopes, and you put pictures in the envelopes, and you draw where everything goes, and you shove it in there, and you send it back, and one of the pictures fell off, and the process was so laborious. It took forever and ever. And I realized I can solve this one pain point. If I promised every pastor that I would come back and give them 3 hours of my time, when they're done with the photographs and all that, you pick the date, I'll be there, have your lay leaders there, have whoever you want. But after 3 hours, that will be done. You will put everything in an envelope with me sitting there and sending it off.
Guaranteeing that process.
It got done. And he looked at me and he said, if you do that, my buddy, Pastor John, over at another church, I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, and then starts your chain of this is the reliable source.
This is the reliable source. Yeah. But the biggest thing is when you're taking over a territory is identifying the weak spots, the good spots. There was good. There were some nice people. But really lasering in. That's our term. Lasering in on the problem, the book. They wanted to see. Who doesn't want to see their picture in a yearbook at the church picnic or the Christmas play? And that I realized that from being part of our church with my daughter Nikki, that those things were really important. That you want to see those pictures and doing a collaboration. Nick, do I not have a poster on the wall in the garage? A collage of pictures?
Yeah, from the Cal Harbor Day Parade.
Cal Harbor Day
Parade. Referring to.
Yes, 1995. Back of my truck is off the Bronco, and there's a whole bunch of kids in animal costumes, and we're doing a parade. So like those things like mean something, and when you say you're going to do it, and you don't do it.
Yeah.
You tarnish.
So what I learned from that is when you're taking over a new territory, find out what the last guy was doing wrong. Even if he was doing an okay job, find out the things that that clientele had to say that they might not have liked about that process, and then you knock that out of the park, and that sets you aside from who was there last. I did that at a solar company too once. I was doing door to door like I was for Anderson, and solar was like at the time it was newer in New York, but there were also grants and stuff from the government where they would pay for your solar, but this company wasn't training people to pitch that way. I was learning from. I would go out and canvas, but all the other companies that were walking around, I would talk to them. I wouldn't just walk past them because they had a different color shirt on. I would talk to everybody, like, who are your top guys? How many sales are you guys getting a day? How many demos are you setting a day? And then I found out that there was a way for the homeowner to get money from New York State to get the solar, and the company still makes their money. Everybody's happy.
So they get the tax credit.
Exactly.
Isn't that right? The tax credits?
So,
there you go.
But talking to another company, I was like, wait, why aren't we doing this? But it was early. It was all of these companies were just starting out with it. And so we started, I started pitching that. And next thing you know, everyone was retraining everybody on how to do it. But like I said, know your area, know the territory, talk to the people, figure out what's going on.
The pain point?
And nobody wanted to pay at the time. So, nobody wanted to pay out of their pocket for that. So that's
great tie-in there, Ty. Great tie-in. Yeah. All right. So we're going to jump into networking tips. I'm going to let you take the first one.
First networking tip of today is go to one event a week.
How important is that?
That's very important. Going to one event a week, even if it's just a cocktail mixer, if it's, sometimes like the chambers have these classes on new technology and things like, not even a class or just a seminar or something. It might not necessarily be a cocktail mixer, but those things are good to just sit through as well, because you can incorporate a lot of that stuff to your business. I know Melville Chamber was doing an AI
every other week
demo
it seemed
thing.
Like.
Yeah, so it's smart to put yourself into those people, especially when you want to meet new people, get your card, get your business out there, talk and spread the business. People at least one a week.
People like to do business with people they like.
But pick your day too. Also, pick your day that you want to do it on. That this is my day where I go to events.
You focus.
Because sometimes it gets a little hard to. Especially when your sales are ramping up and you got a bunch of events going on. It's like, pick that one day where I'm going to commit to it.
So I'm going to roll over that tip into, okay, you took the time, you went to the event. You made some really good connections. Did you get a business card, digital, regular? Did you set something up for a future conversation with somebody? And too many times people just go and collect business cards, and they kind of do a form email. Or me personally, if there was someone really interesting that I think I could blend with business or do network with or do some more stuff, I'll actually pick up the phone the next day. Want to grab coffee? Want to grab a lunch?
Lunch, yeah.
Let's do a one-on-one. Let me get to know you. And from my experience, because of my company, Pods, I'm fortunate that I get to write all this stuff off. I'm not even kidding you. So I'm able to just, hey, let's go grab lunch on me.
Yeah.
People remember when you buy them a drink, you buy them a meal, they remember it.
It's like your Eddie Pretzel story. The way people's hearts is through the food.
Through the food. And it always is. Yeah. And I'm fortunate enough that I could do that and take people out and have that one-on-one time that they remember. So it happened the other day. I met a girl in Connects 3.5 years ago. Met her twice on a Zoom call. She called me last month. She's moving. She remembered me. She remembered Pods. She remembered Eddie Pods. She remembered Pods.
Yeah.
And I did that move today. Like, That one connection that you made.
I think if you're going to a meeting or event or an expo or something, before you leave, you should probably have one lunch or a coffee before you walk out of there. There should be something, because I feel every time we go to anything like that, there's a there with someone.
We're making a plan.
We're making a plan. All right, we got lunch with this person on Thursday, or So and the last one is, don't judge a book by its cover.
What do I mean by that?
I mean, well, what I think you mean by that is walking. What do you mean? Walking an expo, or are you talking about a normal business?
Just a normal business networking event.
Well, don't judge a book by its cover means, to me, just because someone might not be in the best suit, just because someone's card might not be the most high-tech thing in the world, you never know who you're talking to. You never know. Do your follow-through.
That's 100%. That wasn't where I was going, but that is really important. You meet someone, and I have a friend who used to do this all the time. He was an insurance guy, and he said when he would go to events and he'd put his hand out, shake his hand, he'd say, "Oh, I'm insurance." They'd roll their eyes, like they don't know that I have 450 friends in my network that I could introduce you to.
Yeah.
But people right away, they think about their own needs. I don't need any. I don't need to talk to you. And I remember this guy, Sean Rosenberg. Great guy, and he used to say it all the time. People would just turn away as soon as they heard insurance. He sometimes said, "I tell him I was captain of a boat just to get a conversation going."
Yeah, but that's a shame though, because like you said, you don't know what groups this guy's a part of.
No,
he's in insurance, but he could be tied to one of the biggest organizations with everyone you need to know and meet, and he's could be the person to personally walk you in 100%. There and say, "This is my guy." So yeah, you're right by that.
Good tips for the week.
Good tips.
Good tips. We're gonna go to the trade show tips. So I'll take the first one. You get the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Eat a good breakfast before you go. If you're in a hotel or you're starting out from home, and sometimes a one-day show is set up and go. Don't be hungry. Don't work hungry.
Or don't have your plate snacking at your stand at your trade show. I knew that's where you were going next.
With that. Yeah. Don't be bringing the plate over to your table where your tchotchkes is sitting. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Talking to somebody, you got eating a piece of beef jerky, and meanwhile there's money walking right by you. Yeah.
Right by.
Find a near friend.
And a new friend. Sorry, my handwriting's terrible.
Find a new friend, and offer them the lunch.
Again, food. Like a lot of times these shows, you don't have to pay, but I go to national ones where there is nothing free.
It like disarms people. I watch every time we do lunch or any type of eating with people, everyone's defenses just go down as soon as we're at lunch and everything. And then people are more receptive to hear what you're talking about. They're comfortable now. And we pick nice places to have lunch.
Yes, we do. So La Bella. We'll give a shout out to La Bella and Comac.
And last one is on you, brother.
Last one's on me. After the show's over, so many people they run. They run for the door. What did we do at the end of the last show?
We hang out. We're the last ones there usually.
Went to the bar.
Yeah.
Met a whole bunch of people from the show.
What's going on after?
Hung around. How many good connections? Building your conversation even further with the vendors. Well, we're in a hurry to go. I get your families there.
And usually at that time, that's when you're usually running into who's running the show.
Correct.
Too. That, at the end of at the cocktail hours, and they've just probably been working 6 hours before we all got there.
Sure.
So now they're doing their unwinding to come down and have a drink, and that's where, we sit next to the Teds and
funny that you bring up Ted. Did we see Ted the other day? Ted. We're driving to the gym. Back roads, Comac.
Oh, the guy that's
and all of a sudden I'm driving by, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I keep going. I pull over. I get on my phone. I thought I saw Ted. So I text Ted. Ted, are you walking on Elder Drive right now? And he didn't recognize my other phone. He was, who is this?
Yeah. That's a creepy text.
That's a creepy text. I'm like, it's Eddie Pods. He's like, I thought that was you in the Suburban. I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out Ted McGraw.
Shout out Ted. Ted runs the Melville Chamber. Great guy. He's not the president, but he takes care of all the events there. Really, really nice guy. We love Ted. So
and one day we'll have him down.
That's a great idea. Ty, what time is it?
It's old-fashioned time. One of my favorite times. Who are we having down for old-fashioned?
Gina Farase.
And what does Gina Farase do, Eddie?
Gina Farase. is the owner of a roofing company, a solar company, and
Oh wow!
and a public adjuster company.
Look at that. Was that a
When he started talking
segue?
solar,
Was that a
I didn't know
segue into solar?
that I was gonna like, Ty's talking solar.
I don't miss it.
No. Anyway, we'll be right back. We're gonna bring out Gina Farase. We're gonna have our little toast for old fashioned time, and we'll be back in 5. Welcome back, everybody, to episode number 7 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. My co-host Ty.
How you doing,
White,
everybody?
and we have a very special guest today, Gina Farase.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
How you doing, Gina?
Very good today.
We're gonna toast to an old fashioned, and then Ty's gonna tell us why we're toasting to an old fashioned.
After my sip. So we do old fashioned time. Yeah, it's a little strong. We do old fashioned time because it signifies like our relationship in having a new way of doing business and an old way of doing business that both work. And we also met over an old fashioned.
That's awesome.
And I just like to throw in there that Eddie was a tequila guy before I came around, and I had to
100%.
bring him
I know
around
that.
to the
She
dark
knows
side.
that.
I know
I
that.
had to bring him around to the dark side.
My
So-
daughter's been stealing my tequila like a bottle a week on me, man. She's depleting because I'm backing off from the tequila. She's like, well, you're not drinking it.
I mean, somebody's gotta.
So today, Old Fashioned is brought to you by my company, Magic Junk. We are the one-stop shop for all of your moving, cleaning, and junk removal needs. Whether you're selling your house, whether you're just moving or relocating, or whether you just want to help your mom or grandma clean out her attic or basement, I'm who you call. I provide all the labor services, all the trucks, all the good stuff, and we do the things nobody else wants to do. You can reach us at themagicjunk.com, or you can always give us a call at 631-615-3853. We answer the phone from 8 to 8, and we can always get you in the schedule within 48 hours. But today, for our old fashioned and new, we'll start with the old. And since we were talking about the networking and the trade show tips and stuff, the old way of doing business that still works are the in-person networking groups. That's the only way it used to be able to be done. There was no Zoom team meetings, Microsoft Teams, all of these things. So Eddie, explain why that's still a good way to do business, rather than just solely, I'm just going to stay in my house, work completely remote, and just do Zoom all the time.
Some people were, in my opinion, some people are meant to meet in person and speak in person and act in person. I'm not against the Zoom. I did it for two years of COVID. I haven't been back on a Zoom networking event in 2.5 years. If I'm going to put an hour towards a Zoom call, I'll take 2.5 hours and go to a live event.
100%.
Just because I know I can make that in-person connection, look into their eye, shake his or her hand, or just be able to connect personally in a social. So my business is my social life. I don't have a big social life other than my wife and the kids, but it's my social life. So let's get out and be somewhere and enjoy the good food that Pods pays for. Thank you, Pods. You guys are great.
That makes a lot of sense to me. But also, even outside of networking and using these things to build business, I like the fact that Zoom and things like this now have a way you can send a customer a link and they can open it up and do a digital walkthrough through their house for you, and
true.
You don't even have to go. So that's a way in where this stuff it could really work. It can really help businesses, because I did it with a clean out where I sent the link. They walked through. All they had to do was walk through the whole house with the camera, and it rendered everything, sends it back to me 3D. I can walk through their house. All they had to do was walk around and basically scan everything.
Yeah, and you kind of get an idea what
I'm looking at,
Yeah.
because obviously everybody's going to call you and say, oh, it's not that much stuff.
Yeah, until you get there.
Until we went into the city and you did that, and they had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We did not. 440 storage lockers needed to be emptied out. And we went in there, and Ty used his 3D imaging bat phone and, really put forth a presentation to them that they did not know was coming. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know he was going to do that. I didn't even know the software existed, and that's, again, new and old. But did I embrace it? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
He was walking right next to me like he knew what I was doing the whole time.
Yeah. It was cool. It was very cool.
So, tell us about Gina, Eddie. I know you wanted to bring her in the right way, because I read up on you yesterday, and I was like, wow, I was interested in doing this interview today. But I'll let Eddie take it off.
So, Gina and I have known each other since 2011 when I first became a member of the NARI organization for pods. Her dad was the owner of Marcor Construction, and Gina was learning the business from what I saw, from sales to service to being on the road, always at the trade shows with Mom. Mom was always at the trade shows. I saw your mom at a lot of NARI trade shows.
In the beginning, yeah, she was
and she had
definitely
the Pink Panther. She always had the giveaways. My kids have one in the house still from you.
We just got them back in.
There you go. She is also the owner of MGM Construction Services, and that's pretty much your main go-to company.
So that's been one of the main ones. I took over Marcor Construction about 2.5 years ago from my dad. We've also got Marcor Solar, which is our solar division. I've got Marcor Sales, which is our sales division, more of the retail side of things. And then we've got the public adjusting side where, what we do, everything kind of feeds into one another. We've got a couple more companies that are feeding into what we do as well. It's not, we don't own a bakery and, a hair salon.
Let's make some bread.
Everything kind of feeds one another. So it's been great. And, the networking is a huge part of it, and I'm big on finding a problem in the industry and being able to build a business around a solution.
We're gonna get into that because I have intel on her. She was kind enough to provide me with an awesome resume. So my first question, why'd you leave Wall Street?
So I've always been an overachiever. I graduated high school at 16 with a half a semester of college credits already in. And at 16, my parents were like, you're not going away. So I had stayed home. And my second year, I ended up going away, moved to Connecticut. And I got my degree in finance. I actually really wanted to, I was actually going for criminal justice, and I wanted to be in the FBI.
Yeah, girl.
And they told me that a degree in finance or accounting was actually what I needed. So I was like, okay, then sign me up for that. And I just minored in criminal justice. And then it just morphed into an opportunity where I had probably what should have been a 7-figure salary office overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge when I was interning. I was doing investment banking, but it was back in 2009. Not the time to get into
banking collapse.
Not the time to get into finance. So if you want to know why I didn't get in, I didn't want to do I knew I wanted to be a mother. I knew, my girls are 5 and 7 now. I knew I didn't want to do that truck into Manhattan. And surprisingly enough, I saw in the finance world, there was just so many people that was just so backstabbing. And then I got into construction.
Then you got into construction.
And realized it's not much different.
No.
What drew, I'm going to ask this one just because it's all good. What drew you to come on board and work with your dad?
Honestly?
Obviously, that had to be like a big decision.
Complete accident. It
Really?
was totally on accident. My dad had to go for his EPA certification. And one day he was like, hey, I need you to run a job site for me. It was a Saturday. And I was like, okay, what do I do? He's like, you're just going to sit there and be there for the customer and just, make sure the guys do the job. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure, if I just need to watch it, okay. And then at that time, I was out there for the day. At that time, we would do one crew. We'd do a roof in the morning and a roof in the afternoon. And at that point, the first roof we did, I was not following really what they were doing. By the second roof, they had me up on the roof with a ripper bar, and they were like, nope, you're getting to work. And these are guys that have been with my father for a very long time, so they knew me since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in this industry, so they'd be at our house at different events, things like that. And so they were like, get your butt up on that roof. You're working. And so I said to my dad, I was like, I kind of want to do this. And he's like, nobody's going to take you seriously as a girl. Like, I mean, old-fashioned Italian guy.
Yes.
So what'd he do? Eddie knows. He literally, old-fashioned, no pun intended, took me literally gave me the boot. And he was like, good, you want to do this? Figure it out. Yeah. He didn't teach me how to measure a roof. He didn't teach me how to sell a job. He didn't teach me the parts of a roof. You know how I did it? I went to Home Depot to go pick up some materials. And I was like, there's this little area of like learning books. I bought myself a Black & Decker book on roofing, siding, and trim. And on the job sites, I read all of those cover to cover. And I read every single pamphlet of any products that we were using. I learned what they were. And over the years, it actually got to the point where we were installing for a lot of other companies. And I knew the specifications and the installation requirements and the codes that I was actually able to, at some points, be able to be like, hey, guys, I know that this is how you are saying you want it done, but it's not the right way to do it.
It's not the right way.
And they would challenge me, and they're like, we're senior to you. You've been doing this a long time.
I'm a guy. What do you know?
That too.
That too. I know the guys.
Yeah.
I had to overcome, I had to prove myself from the beginning. I had to rip the roofs. I roofed them. I did repairs. I drove the box truck. I did repair. I did every end of the business that I could. And I had to be able to prove myself to my guys also, because at the time we were only running 2 crews a day.
Yeah.
I was able to grow it up to now we're running 10 crews a day.
Wow.
So it's a lot of people to manage.
Oh, yeah.
We've got, different variations of how we set up the crews, and it's been great. We've got a lot of loyal guys over the years, but there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to be able to get into this and grow with it. But I think that was the best thing that my dad ever could have done, is not
pamper you.
Yeah, no.
Not
he was
give
like,
you a pass.
Throw you right to the wolves.
Throw you right to the wolves.
The best way you learn is from screwing up.
So
I think,
yeah,
personally.
It was, my father likes to refer to it as baptism by fire.
Sure. That's an old saying.
Wow.
His generation.
Yep.
Oh, right on.
Wow.
So he did throw me to the wolves. He actually, we had just started, at the time we were more of a wholesale account. So like companies that would go out and sell, like you name some of the companies you worked for, a lot of them subcontractor work. We were the bodies on the jobs. We were the subs. And we still do that for a portion of what we do in the company. Yeah. But we had just signed 2 new companies at that time, and my dad we had a death in the family. He had to go to Europe, and he was like, listen, I got to leave for 10 days. If there's there's jobs booked for when we get back, and there's jobs invoiced while you were gone, and you could figure out how to get material moved around, you got a job. And we would, he was in Europe, we would go back and forth, and, we keep in touch. And there was work booked for when he got back, and he ended up staying an extra 2 days, which I was like, okay, I guess I did okay. The only thing that I waited to tell him was, at the time we had a home office, and I was doing billing at the end of the night and invoicing, and I turned around, and all of a sudden I heard the shredder going. I didn't tell him that it was his schedule book, because we were old school and we would handwrite our schedule. So luckily I have a photographic memory and I remember what I put on the schedule. But I just remember turning and like literally the books going through the shredder, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to fire me. I didn't I managed to do everything else right. But
last week we had a whole segment about, people still keeping their stuff on pen and paper as opposed to CRMs and things like that. And there's a lot of businesses that people are old school. They got filing cabinets and it's like, well, that stuff could be digital. It could all be digital. You'll never lose it. You'll never lose it.
You got the generation gap, right?
But I do it. He knows.
Toast again.
Old and new. Old and new. Again. What is Gary up to these days?
So Gary is running production. So about 2.5 years ago, he looked at me and he said, listen, there can't be 2 bosses. So you're really good at what you do as far as running the operation, building the divisions, and bringing on good people. I'm really good at running the fields, he says, and meaning he's very good at running the field and coordinating the guys, dealing with the day-to-day production. And we just realized that it was just this perfect yin and yang. So he actually backed off of anything to do with the day-to-day operation as far as the office and sales and the front end and lending accounts and things like that. Obviously, it took years. I'm doing this almost 17 years with him, so it took years for me to prove myself and earn that. I think the best thing that I did was that I've done every single person's job in my business. So I'm never scared if
Gotta
somebody
roll up the sleeves.
Yeah, and my office knows I will outwork everybody. I have an amazing team, but if I have to work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, I will. Saturday morning, I had some stuff to take care of. I was in my office at 4:45 in the morning. It's just
What was I all weekend? In my office all weekend.
Real quick for our audience, though, we need to know who Gary is.
so. Gary's my father.
sorry.
Okay, yeah. Audience doesn't know who Gary is.
So Gary's my father.
So here comes our connection to Nary. That
Thank
is
you.
where I met Gary first.
Okay.
Back in 2011. And
Now it makes sense.
when Gina started coming and doing the trade shows,
Yeah.
and then moving on up, and then joining the board at Nary.
Yep.
You were on the board with me there at Nary. And again, I admired you from afar, and I admire you here today because
Thank you.
I have four girls, and I have always tried to support women's advancement, whatever field it is, and I've told all my kids, you can accomplish anything you want. You have to work for it, though.
100%.
I'm not going to give it to you. I don't have the money to give it to you, but there's a path. And if you have people to support you to get to that path, you can accomplish anything,
My obstacles were being a woman going into a completely male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
There were so many barriers to entry that I had to. You were talking earlier about
Baptism by fire.
about judging a book by its cover.
Yes, yeah.
this
And there are
is-
gatekeepers
this is
to everything.
100%.
and
But this is how I go to work, and
Yeah.
I was up on a roof this morning. I've had people ask me, well, why don't you dress up for work? Why is your hair in a ponytail every day? Because I have to literally, at the drop of a dime, be able to climb up on a roof and I'm
take
not,
care of something. Yeah.
I'm army crawling through attics if I have to. There's nothing then in the business that I won't do. If I have to jump into the bookkeeping, I do that. If I have to jump onto a solar install, I do that. Whatever it's going to take for us to get what we need done,
Yeah.
we do.
Well, I like the dynamic that you guys have because you're allowing people to be good at what they're good at. And I feel
100%.
like to run a company, if everyone's just trying to
Do everything.
do everything and everyone wants to have their hand in everything. Listen, everyone's good at different things. Eddie's great with numbers. Eddie's great with money. I'm an operations guy. I do the job. I'm a customer service in front of the
Conversations
person.
we had just yesterday.
We just had the
right?
conversation
Just
yesterday. And I'm just like, dude, if I could just take the stress of handling the money off of me and I could just go just kill it and
Yep.
just run that number through the roof
100%.
and let someone else manage the money because it's like not everyone's good at everything. So, but I also want to go a little bit more into you guys' Nary connection because you took me to a Libby
Trade
event.
show.
Now is that similar to what
Yes.
Nary used to be? Nary's no more, right?
Nary's no more. Nary was never as big as Libby. Libby was always the big brother.
Nary and Libby, it was interesting because, like you say, old school and new school. So,
Yeah.
that was part of that. Real quick, that was part of why my dad and I kind of had to do this role shift because everything was a fax machine, paper and pen. Like it needed to kind of get updated. There was no CRM. Like we had to implement those things. But as far as the Nary and Libby thing, and I've been very, very involved in both in my last 15, 16 years of the networking aspect of what I did. Nary was the National Association for the Remodelers Industry, so it was really more geared towards remodeling. Libby is the Long Island Builders Institute, and for years they've always had a Remodelers Council, but they never actually, it was never an active council that they had. And this year's president brought it, last year's president, Vince Calvosa, brought it back, as well as a lot of other amazing things he brought back. So he actually leaned on me to be able to start a lot of these councils. I'm on the board of directors there as well. And we just actually did a merge. Nary was taken over. They merged to Pro NY. And then Pro NY was then brought into and merged into Libby for this Remodelers Council.
I'm sorry, it was dissolved. You could say merge.
Well,
You're trying to be polite.
I was on the board there too.
I
so
was too.
I just love to hear about all the different organizations, and because I'm always looking like
The only time during my 12 years with Nary did they ever do something with Libby was the patch.
The
Remember
pack.
The
Yes,
pack, sorry.
yeah.
That was the only time. And it always struck me as odd because there were so many people in ancillary industries that service both.
So that's the thing, and that's why I got involved in it. And honestly, it totally changed my career. And I'll tell you, barriers to entry, you had them there for sure, because you had builders, you have certain insurance requirements that their jobs are requiring. You've got much larger scale projects that you're dealing with. But there is a crossover for the associates, really more so than the remodelers. But bringing back this, the Remodelers Council, and I actually was the one I was the first chair of that Remodelers Council, bringing it back.
Nice.
I was actually the one who kind of annoyed them to get a
Come on,
hold
we
of
need
Pro.
to do. Well, you saw where Pro was going, and you wanted to keep it alive.
Well, and you saw at the board meetings when when I would bring up Libby, and everyone would
This
look
girl
like,
was raising. I'll do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to like. She was raising her hat to take over like all this stuff because people started to get disinterested and weren't stepping up and weren't volunteering like we once did. And I'm just as guilty.
I mean, years ago, Nary was the spot to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you looked forward to going to those. I mean, there were days where I would rush home from a job site from Staten Island, and I remember there was one day, maybe it wasn't Staten Island. I was coming over the Throgs Neck Bridge, and I remember changing in the car over the bridge to get to the Nary dinner because you dressed up for those, and nothing got in the way of a Nary dinner because you knew you were getting networking. You knew you were going to get a meeting out of one of those dinners, and the network. We almost built like this little family. And
it's so ironic that you say it the way you're saying it, because I have said it on social media so many times. And Nary was my second family for a long time.
It was heartbreaking for a lot of us.
It was 10 years. I and my wife knew the John Hogans and the Carries and the Pats, and she was part of the family. My kids were part of the family because they came to events.
Totally.
And it was like, I can remember my very first event at the 56th Fighter Squadron.
Yep.
And Bob
was
in his heyday as the president. And
Yep.
I remember just saddling up to him at the bar. I'm like, so you're the president? He goes, yeah, let's go out and have a cigarette.
Yep.
Okay. Like that was, and they had, representatives from the government there. And it was like this big, you felt like you were part of something.
So that's pretty much, I mean, it's coming back because we lost that with Nary, and you talk about networking and the importance of building, a sales force and being successful in the sales end of things. Libby's now at over is about 800 members, company members. So, some companies can have 5-10 people attending these events. So you're talking a lot of bodies in the rooms. Through that, I've actually been able to make some other contacts. So I currently chair Nassau County's Home Industry Board for Consumer Affairs. So that gives us an opportunity on a monthly basis. I actually get to sit with a team of people that, other contractors and people within the association, within the industry, that we actually get to talk about what are the issues in the industry? What are things we could do better for consumers? What are licensing regulations that we could potentially put into place that would make it better for consumers? We've got, same thing. We've got the opportunity where we have, I've got a great relationship with Suffolk Consumer Affairs, the director of Consumer Affairs, because of that. Actually this week we've got our Senator Monica Martinez coming into our office to talk about some permitting stuff that we want to be able to help enhance. So right now you've built this network, and it's power in numbers with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about solar.
Okay.
I know you were saying you guys are doing a lot of the installs and stuff, right? You were saying for solar companies?
Marcor Construction is interesting. So Marcor Construction, we've got our wholesale division.
Yeah.
So wholesale, we could do roofing, siding, windows. We do that on a wholesale level. So when remodelers or builders, developers, more so bigger developers now that we're really working with, I'll still roof a doghouse. I don't care. But right now I just landed an account where we have 80 houses for the last 2 years we've been putting up. We've got another 2 years, maybe 3 that we're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of, we're doing full exteriors on those. And like I had said earlier, it's more of building businesses around solutions into the industry.
Yeah.
Solar was something that I was actually a victim of a bad installation. And I happened to be the roofing company. At the time, I was the subcontractor for the solar company. And the solar company caused about $30,000 of damage in my own house.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
When I went up on the roof and I saw what they were doing, I said, oh, no, I could totally do this. And that was when I had like, we always have like in business, like these aha moments, right?
I saw it as you were saying. I'm like,
So-
this is
You're
going
You're like,
there.
wait, this is all you guys are doing?
Yeah. And
Why are you
basically I was like,
oversimplifying
whoa,
this?
whoa, whoa. Solar, this is just a product. Roofing's a trade. If you do not understand the roofing trade, how are you supposed to do solar?
Roof. Oh my God.
You're putting holes and like, not just a few of them, a couple hundred into someone's house.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know if you miss that rafter, how to fix that repair right then and there, and you're just turning a blind eye to it. So actually, the solar division, when we started it, was built as a service division to help troubleshoot a lot of the bigger corporate companies and the more national companies, and even local companies that where homeowners were having issues. So many solar companies went out of business already.
Yeah.
So there's nobody left to service them, nobody to handle the system removal and reinstalls. The local solar companies that are out here really only want the new installs or to service their own existing customers. So I said, well, we have a problem in the industry. Let's build a solution around it, right? Then it got into the installation side, but it's more so, you know the solar industry where you have a lot of sales organizations. They're guys that are really good at selling, but they don't have the bodies behind them.
Yeah.
So my job is to build those relationships, be able to get in with those companies and bring them on as channel partners, let them sell through us, let them be our sales team. And now I'm not out competing against the companies. I'm also putting roofs on their houses for too, right? Because I'm doing roofing for all these solar companies as well. So we've got the the roofing side. We got we're doing the development stuff, the new construction. We're dealing with the multifamily stuff. We're dealing with the solar companies. We're dealing with our own residential stuff.
Alliance.
So do you feel like you were ahead of the curve when it comes to that marriage between all of that, or or a lot of the companies doing the same?
So
they probably are now. You're probably open.
Yes and no. There's way fewer doing it right now as far as aligning with roofing companies that are actually doing it legitimately. If you're a legitimate solar company, you have to actually align with somebody who has the proper insurance. And because we're in New York, well, the licensing we're working on with Consumer Affairs because you have to double check the insurances that align with it, right?
Gotcha.
So a roofer has to have no height exclusions. They have to have roofing coverage. They can't have an exclusion for roofing and be on a roof, but I would say 90% of the roofing contractors out there have exclusions for it.
Yeah.
So you have to understand who your competition is. What are you going up against? So when I started back in 2011 was when I really got into the solar industry. And it was also the same time right in this neighborhood when I got into the insurance industry too. Because there was a huge hailstorm right out here. And when hail hits a roof and we had our Hurricane Irene at the same time, not far apart from each other. So that was when I got my public adjuster's license because I said, all right, well, I need to know how to navigate these insurance claims because you got all these stormers coming out of state and they don't have the right insurances. And that's why so many local individual townships require licensing, which is crazy that they don't require permitting for roofing. They're starting to require it now in certain incorporated villages because of all the out-of-state storm chasers.
Is it meant to certify the contractor?
It's meant to make sure that they have the license, and also it should be so that they're double checking the insurances. But we're working those types of things out because there's ways to check the insurances the right way.
Yeah.
Just a funny sidebar. Isn't it weird how people in your industry and in mine, aside from the moving, the junk, how natural disasters just mean such dollar signs? Yeah. It's just if
it's done the right way.
When it floods. When it floods and the hurricanes come and when it floods in Park Slope and all these places, every basement within a 10-mile radius in Brooklyn is completely flooded.
But doesn't it bother you when all of a sudden you're going up against a guy who doesn't have the right insurances and doesn't face the expenses you have?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me. You know why? Because I'll still win that client because this is going to happen every year.
You're right.
So when Uncle Dan with his van came when Uncle Dan with his van came and gave you a terrible experience.
Yep.
Next year, when it happens again, you're gonna call the guy that his price was a little higher, probably a lot. It might have been double, but at the end of the day, I'm who you want to deal with.
For sure.
Because like I said, it's gonna happen next year too, and I see that from my clients are calling me back 2 years ago. I cleaned out their flood stuff in Park Slope when they got all that water.
Oh yeah.
Every year, Ty, we need you back. We need you back. Yep. And then now I go out on the day
Didn't they learn their lesson like the first 3 times?
Listen, if they tell me they're gonna have that many inches in rain, I'll canvas the block. I'll leave stuff there.
So I'm going to jump in here because Hurricane Sandy put me on the map.
I believe it.
Put me on the map because of how I was working the business and how involved I got with the operations team, being one of them,
Yep.
working out of their office for a short period of time as Hurricane Sandy hit. I became a resource to the ops team, which gave me full autonomy to tell Florida, turn off the website, don't take any calls from New York, give them the Long Island office, give them his phone number. I literally had a list of 500 customers. And as we were building new containers, they would come on a flatbed with 18 foldable containers. My son worked there. My daughters worked there. They were building containers every day for 6 straight weeks because we ran out of containers like overnight.
Yeah.
And
I remember that when that was going on.
The boys would come in. I got 5 more, Eddie. I'd get on the list and call the next 5 people on the list, book the order, call corporate, call in the order. I did like over 2,000 orders. It literally made me the most successful rep that launched me into a level that no one's been able to catch me since. And like it's because I carried the momentum and I kept up the momentum.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
But you made your promises and you delivered, and that's a big part of it.
Sandy was huge. I was in my early 20s at the time doing just catching random jobs, and they were paying me $40 an hour just to returf soccer fields out in Brooklyn because all of the tractors and were saltwater eroded. So we had to hand, it was just it's always dollar signs.
There's always opportunities. What put Marcor on the map actually on the residential side, and not being just a subcontractor, we became now like a household name more so, was actually the hailstorm in 2011 out here.
Everyone's got one. Got one.
So my next question is, where do you go from here, and where are you guys in the next 5 years?
Oof, loaded question.
I always put it in.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Because I got the answer.
How many new companies do you think she's going to start?
They're already lined up.
Yeah, I'm like,
my accountant, he asked me the other day while I slept if I created 4 more. And I said, no, I created 5. But
I think it's hard to run one.
so right now, like I said, we've got the construction side. That's, retail, wholesale.
Yeah.
We've got the solar end. I also own a building supply.
Oh.
So we've realized that there's issues when it comes to coordinating job sites. And, I bought a building 2 years ago. By doing that, it gave me access to having a warehouse to be able to buy in larger bulk and be able to help, price projects properly.
Yeah.
But it was never actually, and it still is not intended to be self-serving. The reason I really did that was to be able to build up for my developers and my builders to be able to say, hey, I'm doing this and you want turnkey. But when you understand your industry, and I understand, hey, you guys want this type of insurance, that costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So if I remove the material aspect of this and you run that out through a completely separate company, and I will run it and I will do all your takeoffs and I will coordinate your materials. You don't have to order anything. I'll do it all. You're just going to buy it through me. You're going to save my insurance expense off of all those materials. And when you're talking about $2, $3, $4 million contracts over a period of time,
you're talking
big money.
You're talking big money.
But you're even talking about on $100,000 contract, somebody saving a couple $1,000 just to write a check somewhere else. The insurance companies are charging based off of the total sale. Mm-hmm. The insurance, the materials shouldn't be something that they're insuring. Yeah, you're not
total cost. That's what
they're going up total sale. Yeah. So by doing that, we've been operating for about 2 years as a building supply. We've been stocking our own materials and selling them to the builders. Do
you guys do the supply delivery as well?
We do. And
are you competing with the Riverheads and the families?
So we're more so. I don't like to consider myself even competition, even with the roofing stuff. As much as I may be looked at as competition, my competition is actually we're more of allies because I align with them. So even on the roofing side, although you may be my competitor, I actually probably install for you too because a lot of those guys don't have the bodies to install, and we have a solid installations organization. On the construction side, I'm on the supply side, I'm able to feed them some business as well, because certain things I do have to buy through them. But because of being able to build up and being able to buy some of this stuff directly, it was able to get me open to New York State, where my big win for the week was that I got my commodity codes with New York State, that I am a women-owned business supplier. So I actually will be able to.
That's the big winner of the week. You like how
That's
she
my
brought
win.
that in? Isn't that nice?
That was nice. That was nice.
That was real nice.
So-
That is a huge win.
Yeah, so we'll be able to deal with developers, builders, general contractors. We just put our deposit down on our 24-foot flatbed with our Moffett. We'll be doing all our own deliveries, and it'll still be feeding the building supplies as well. Yeah, the building suppliers, because we could work alongside them on projects that are not WBE related. I could still give them, and my company still gives them. We still buy a couple $1 million a year in our own materials, so they don't want to lose those purchases.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're doing our own purchasing, but we're still towards the top of their purchasing as well. So to me, it's just a matter of strategy. But as far as where are we going to be in 5 years, we've got 3 other divisions that are launching.
Tell.
One is called Roofs for Solar. So I've piloted this program for about 2.5 years. I realized, again, another problem in the industry, the roofing industry, the solar industry doesn't know how to run roofs. They try and open up a roof company. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're going to run into. It's not running a solar company. You've got a lot more variables. You've got codes to follow. You don't have engineers telling you what to do. So what I do is I've actually built a roof division for a solar company, and I run it for them. Everything from the estimating to the material takeoffs to I can find a sub, I can manage their subs, I make sure that their insurance is vetted properly for what their insurance needs. And right now, the solar companies aren't really making money off the roofs. So they have one of two choices. They can either make a small piece off the roof, or they can actually bottom out the roof and be able to at least sell the solar and not cost the homeowner so much money.
Much more money, yeah.
And be able to roll it all together in one finance, which is great. And they don't have to actually really know what they're doing, because I'm behind the scenes knowing that. And then we have also spun off of that Roofs for Solar University. So every industry has some sort of like a regulatory certification in solar. I'm sure you've heard of NYSERDA. So that's their on-bill program where you can actually, there's no cost for you to finance the solar project.
No cost at all.
But there's caps of limitations on how much you can finance, but you throw a bridge loan in with it. But in order to be able to be certified through NYSERDA, you need a NABCEP certification. With NABCEP, it's a outside certification that you need continuing education for. And
CEU.
you need the CEU. So when
I'll sponsor a lunch.
I met with the CEO of NABCEP twice already now, and I said, you've got all of these programs that they're related around batteries, they're related around electric. How many fires have you guys actually had on a national level with solar? Not many. You have a licensed electrician, a master electrician, either that's on your staff in most companies. You have to have an electrical certificate to close out that solar. So how much could potentially go wrong on that side? But how many roof leaks do you guys have? And he said, a ton. Why didn't you call me? But so I had said, so I have been in the process. I currently have 28 courses on roofing for all different ends of the solar industry. So those are going to be more of an online platform. And then it morphed into the last problem that we found was that solar is causing an issue in the real estate market. When you're buying and selling a house, you're having obstacles. The closing attorneys don't know what they're looking at. Are you getting a power purchase agreement, a lease, or a finance? Were the tax credits paid off? Is there a UCC filing on the property? So they don't know, and the home inspectors don't know what they're looking at in many cases. So what they're doing is they're making you sign a waiver that they're not looking at the roof or the solar. So I don't have to actually be a home inspector to do it. All I'm doing is doing a roof and solar inspection. So we opened up Solar Roof Check, and that's going to be a licensable national platform that home inspectors can use. We can do it, or the inspections ourselves as well, but it's going to be able to provide the lenders, the realtors, the buyers, the sellers, and the closing attorneys all the information that they need to know.
Genius.
She is action packed.
Genius.
I'm going to read a list here. I got a list here.
Oh gosh.
Suffolk County, New York Home Improvement Sales License and Home Improvement License. Nassau County, New York Home Improvement Sales License. New York City Home Improvement Sales License. New York State Public Adjuster's License. Owens Corning Top of the House Certification. Owens Corning Roofing System Certification. And a Certied 5-star certification. We have royalty among us.
So what I hear and what I get out of your story and everything that I've read and what you've explained, if you know your business well enough, I'm talking about your ability to retain information is obviously a little better than your average, because for you to not only be good at what you do, have your company be great at it, be able to generate sales, you also know it so well that you can fix the mistakes of other companies and start a whole new business based on their mistakes. That's genius to me.
It is.
That's genius.
I mean, it's you don't want to. The important thing, especially with building your reputation, you don't want to ever throw people under the bus.
Yeah.
So we leave names out of it. We just hey, here's what needs to be done. Here's what it's going to cost. One bit of friendly advice or business input that I've done in my company that has worked amazing, because obviously I can't run all of these divisions myself.
Yeah.
I have to have a solid team around me.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's interesting because one thing that has always bothered me as an employee or employing somebody, what are the two things you don't like people to ask you?
How much you make?
And when they want what?
A raise.
So what I've done, I hate that conversation, because what happens, you don't want to tell somebody no, and you don't, if money's tight and you can't afford a raise, you don't want to tell them that. But sometimes you have to. And if things are going well, you don't want them to be kind of counting the company's money and saying, well, hold on, how come I'm not eating?
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is I've built all of my divisions on performance pay with pretty much everybody in my team.
Smart.
So everybody kind of runs their own little piece of it, and whatever they run, they're getting a piece of whatever the company's doing. So the better the company does, they feel like they're being compensated. And when their company's not doing that well, they know not to ask because it's not there. They can see it.
That's
so,
smart. Yeah.
So I have the final question. Is your husband still in the sandwich shop?
No, I took him aboard with us. He just started with us a couple weeks ago.
Did he sell it?
He sold it about 3 months ago now.
Is he having withdrawals from Supersada and Bujudo?
No, he could go still visit, but yeah, we needed him.
Sounds
I
like,
needed
what is he doing?
sounds like this was a very good sandwich shop.
It was pretty well known, and but the guys that took it over, they know what they're doing.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
they're doing some really cool stuff with it that
Next level.
Anthony just didn't. He was in it for a long time, and I think he was excited about the opportunities of what I'm doing.
Cool.
That he wanted to kind of jump
That's
in.
awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Best win of the week or best new connection? What do you got?
I got a couple of wins. Did a walkthrough, spent about 2.5 hours with this client. I'm moving to Montana in June, and it's a huge job. They want me to pack this. She's 90 years old. She's going to live with her granddaughter. Her husband just passed away, dementia, and all of this stuff. And I have to do everything top to bottom. I'm talking about every plate in that house I have to pack, wrap.
The deep clean, the
I have to
junk
clean the
removal.
house afterwards. I have to paint the house afterwards so
wow.
they can figure out whether they want to keep it, whether they want to rent it. So this is happening in June. It was pretty big quote. They wrap their head around it. They understand it. But my other big win was getting a free skybox. Was that yesterday? Or Sunday night, I got a free skybox at the Prudential Center for doing a delivery for the Women's Professional Hockey League.
That's awesome.
Where's that customer from?
Yeah, that was Eddie's custom. It was originally a pod where I unloaded.
He
and
became the alternative to the pod once they stopped being in the.
They were in a jam. They needed the stuff right before the game started. That somebody forgot their jerseys. Those jerseys I bought, 12 boxes of jerseys, 30 30 jerseys in a box that were $125 a piece that they were selling them
Wow.
for. So they were looking like, we need our
Oh,
jerseys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Got them the jerseys, and I got there just as the game started, so they didn't have time to actually get me tickets. They just handed a bunch of VIP passes out, which gave us access to the entire Prudential Center.
That's
we're in the
amazing.
lounge, we're in a skybox, we're ordering food, didn't pay for anything.
That's
you know,
awesome.
So.
Sometimes we get those cool job perks that we
Yeah,
have
I
to do
was
those
just-
kind of things.
I never saw a professional women's hockey game, but I loved it. I was like, this
They're
is
aggressive.
I was like, whoa. I did just like the guys. They were ready to fight.
Yep.
I was like,
Cool.
wow, that was awesome.
So my big win of the week. So we've had a little bit of turnover at our company. We've lost some sales reps. In my opinion, some, oh well. Some, what a bummer. But we got a call from the Chicago City Smokeout / NASCAR. And they were letting us know that the previous employee was reaching out on his new company, trying to take away his old business. So from his own territory, he went back to the well, try to throw the Pods team under the bus, try to do his magic, which it don't work. It don't work when I get involved. And
I know you
was
for a
able-
long time. No, it would not.
No, and I was able to get a commitment financially, on the calendar, a total of 32 containers.
Good for you.
11 of them for the NASCAR team in downtown Chicago that's going into a park, and then another bunch up at the smokeout area. So basically in Chicago, NASCAR takes over the city for a weekend, and they build a track around the city.
Didn't they do that in Vegas too?
Yeah, and they use my storage in between here, there, and everywhere. I mean, you could imagine what they use it for, but it's just ironic that we got word from corporate, someone better make this call because the poachers are out there. And I kicked that door open, didn't let the guy off the phone, told him what I was going to do, got on the phone with operations, 3-way call, just from my experience. Oh shit, that guy didn't know nothing. And then I said to the guy, I'm going to come in the last week of June. I'm going to do a walkthrough with you guys. He goes, you know, the guy who did this the past 2 years, lived in Chicago, never came down here once. I'm like, I'm coming in from New York, man. It's a weekend trip for me and the wife. Go, thank you again, Pots. So that was my big win of the week because, we were on the verge of losing it to, someone from our own company, which I guess that's fair game. No one signed an NDA or anything like that. So, Gina, was it that bad? You
No.
good?
No, all good.
All right.
I know you wanted to see the questions before you came, but
Yes, she did.
I
Yes,
feel
she
like
did.
Eddie laid you up real good.
I don't know. I never know. Sometimes he could throw some curveballs out
She
there.
knows me well. That's for sure.
You're right about that.
So we're gonna do our closing, and you're gonna go first. You're gonna tell us which company you want to promote. Email us, what phone numbers, how we can find you.
So I would say reach out to Marcor Construction. We are based out of West Babylon, New York. You can reach us at 631-321-0593. But for any of the divisions, you are more than welcome to call my cell phone, 631-831-2690. Our website is www.marcorny.com.
Look at it was up there.
Yeah.
Ty, what are you representing today?
Magic Junk and Cleaning, 631-615-3853, and themagicjunk.com. Call me 8 to 8 anytime. Anything you need done, my guys will come and get it done for you.
And I want to thank George Kitchers.
Yeah, George.
George really came through and offered to help sponsor us, so I want to give George Kitchers a shout out. Thank you, buddy.
Whose episode actually comes out today.
Yes,
Even
yes.
though by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a little far removed. But
So I want to give him a shout out. If you or anyone out there is relocating, remodeling, or just want a pod, just because Eddie Pods has pods, you give me a call. I get you a great deal, 631-334-8587. If you're interested in the book, you can find me on Amazon, howtobecome-a-saleswarrior.com. It's right there. You can buy the audio version, which Ty was gracious enough to do the audio engineering and mixing. And if you're interested in having me come in, speak to your company, and motivate the troops, get your sales guys, get them riled up to hit their goals, give them reasons to hit their goals, explain why it's so important to me to be the top guy every week after week. You can give me a call at 631-335-0445 or Eddie at becomeasaleswarrior.com. Thank you, everybody. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you next time.